The 1995 World Cup final was one of my first ever major sporting memories and something that I'll treasure having experienced with my dad. And the day that I realised what he'd said for years was true, sport really can be much more than a game. And that South African team that inspired a nation then went on to inspire a generation of rugby players as well. And the story has been told by some of the leading lights in Hollywood history, and we're also expecting to see some sporting greats here as well. Morgan Freeman took the script to director Clint Eastwood before Matt Damon came on board, and the most brilliant story in rugby history was finally told. But according to the man who himself fulfilled a dream by playing Mandela, it was the wisdom of the president, not the game itself, that we have to thank for that historic World Cup.
I think it could have been ping pong. If the country was that rabid about the game. In South Africa, you know, rugby is like, particularly with white South Africans, it was like a religion. So the smart thing that Mandela did was keep the team going and got the rest of the country to back them up. Great story.
Francois Pienaar was the real-life South African captain whose story is immortalised in the film and whose team went on to dominate world rugby. His experience at the World Cup struck him even back then as an unbelievable script that had unfolded before him.
I still remember clearly how I felt and the emotions. I've not actually seen the 95 game on tape. I actually don't want to see it because my memory of how I felt and what I saw in the streets of South Africa was very, very special. And I said a couple of months after the World Cup, when it started settling in, people asked me, you know, was this too good to be true? I actually said if Hollywood had the opportunity to write a script about South Africa, about apartheid, and about this leader called Nelson Mandela and rugby and how it came together, they could not have written a better script.
And Matt Damon, now a self-professed rugby fan, had to live out the momentous undertaking of Pienaar as they shot the film on location at Robben Island and on the streets of South Africa, leaving him with an emotion he rarely feels on set and a real respect for the great captain.
I had prepared so much, and I talked to Francois, and it was scripted, and it was in the book, and all, you know, I kind of knew how the whole scene was going to play out, and I was thinking about making the movie, and I got there, and then suddenly was standing in Madiba's cell, and it was a very odd thing where it suddenly hit me that I wasn't on a set. Like, we get very used to shooting on locations where you feel kind of inoculated from the world. You feel kind of like you're in a bubble and you're in kind of this movie reality, and suddenly I just realized it just really hit me, and that's all in the scene. And I had asked Francois, and it was true. He held his arms out, and it was this. I did at least have this real impulse to, and I've talked to other people who've been in there, and they do that because you can't believe how small the cell was, and he spent 17 of the 27 years in that cell, so it's a really powerful place.
And I hope you're privileged to know that you played the greatest rugby player of the modern era.
Did you tell him that?
I did tell him that.
Yeah.
I've never been as starstruck as in my entire life.
Yeah. It's funny, hanging out with him in South Africa was funny because, you know, it's like, he's like Elvis down there, you know.